What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of The Art of War with me, Blade Master. And in this battle, we are going to be looking at Getae versus Odrysian Kingdom. It's not your regular old barbarian matchup. And it's going to be a really fun episode because these are two factions that, while both are pretty underpowered compared to Boyai and Tillis, the way they work and the dynamics that they have when playing against each other is going to be pretty interesting and always makes for a very interesting battle. So, Getae versus Odrysian Kingdom, the balance of power almost definitely shifts in Getae's favor. They are a much more powerful faction. The way Getae works is probably best explained with an analogy. Imagine you ask someone to build you a house, but to build that house, you give him like a rusty hammer and like a bunch of plastic nails. So you can build a house, but it's not going to be all that great at the end of the day. So they have a lot of tools. None of the tools are particularly effective. But that said, against a pretty underpowered faction like Odrysian Kingdom, they'd probably be able to do pretty well. Odrysian Kingdom, on the other hand, has basically one thing that it does best, and besides that, it doesn't really have many tools in its arsenal. They depend almost solely on their charge. They're an extremely glass cannon faction. They have incredibly deadly units on the charge, like their Thracian nobles and Thracian warriors. But after that, their low melee defense and their pretty poor armor and lack of shields really comes into play because they won't be able to block enemy missiles and enemy melee attacks. So a lot of it depends on the effectiveness of the charge, and if that doesn't work, then it's basically game over. So the three tools that Getae has that can beat Odrysian Kingdom or that can do very effectively are the Dacian Heavy Bowmen, the Dacian Heavy Skirmishers, and the Noble Swords. That's basically the Noble Swords are a staple of any Getae army and should be brought against any other opposing faction. They are very, very effective, and they're basically as strong as Oathsworn with a slight reduction in cost, which makes them even more cost effective. I would actually also add the Bow Horsemen to be another tool that can win against Odrysian Kingdom because they can use heavy shot or normal shot and destroy the Thracian warriors and Thracian nobles in the process. So the Dacian heavy bowmen as well, with access to quick reload, can slaughter Thracian nobles and Thracian warriors, of course. And Dacian heavy skirmishers can do basically the exact same thing. And for Odrysian Kingdom, it basically boils down to using their Thracian Royal Cavalry effectively because they need the extra cavalry component in their army to make them effective. And because if they are very susceptible on the to getting charged at by enemy cavalry, so you need to bring a lot of cavalry to counter that, which basically leaves you with less money to spend on your really effective units, aka your Thracian warriors and your Thracian nobles. So using your Thracian Royal Cavalry effectively would be one way to win the game, very effective way to win the game, I would say. These are very deadly units. I've done an entire You the Real MVP episode on that, which you guys should check out if you haven't. And besides that, probably bringing some Thracian nobles and bring some Dacian skirmishers and the Thracian peltas would be very, very effective because if you time a gen snipe effectively on the Getae general and time that in with the devastating charge of these Thracian nobles and Thracian warriors, that could very easily lead to a chain rout. So right now, coming into the action, I am going to look at the builds just in a couple of minutes. But right now, there's already some action going on. Iraklis, who's my opponent, if I haven't mentioned that, is using his Thracian cavalry very aggressively and actually getting a lot of bow horsemen caught in the process. Both of these units have the same mass, so I'm not really sure how he managed to catch my units. I think it's probably because of the angles. When I was pulling back with my bow horsemen, he managed to just use the angles to his favor and actually get a lot of kills on them. But as for the builds, right now with Getae, I've brought 4 bow horsemen. I've also brought a total of 4 spear horsemen. I have brought 3 noble horsemen, so I've gone very cavalry heavy, and I've brought a total of 5 Dacian heavy bowmen and only 1 noble swords unit. So it's very heavy on the cavalry front. Actually, I brought 6 spear horsemen. Very heavy on the cavalry front, very heavy on the archer front, on the skirmish front. And the reason why I have split my army into 3, as you can see here, is because I wanted to make it easier for myself to be able to kite back, which is the only way I can win this game, and my main objective while moving into this game is to kite back with 1 or 2 forces, split my army into 3, kite back with 1, and then use the angles that I have with the rest of my other troops to start getting some flank or rear shots onto the advancing enemy. So on the other hand, Iraklis has brought a total of 4 Thracian cavalry He's also brought three, what are they called, Thracian horsemen and one Thracian royal cavalry general. Very smart move bringing the Thracian royal cavalry general, because they are, even though they are melee cavalry, while it might seem counterintuitive to bring a barbarian elite tier melee cavalry unit as a general because they're usually pretty poor, Thracian royal cavalry are the exception to that rule, and they're actually more tanky than Thracian nobles because of their increased armor and the fact that they're more maneuverable, so they can actually pull out of a sticky situation if they ever get into that. So besides that, he has brought a total of 3 Thracian nobles and 4 Thracian warriors, it looks like, unless he's brought some Foxmen. No, it looks like he's actually brought 3 Thracian warriors and 2 mercenary Foxmen and 4 Thracian skirmishers. So right at the start of the game, he decided to move out, push out with his Thracian cavalry and started to get some very good shots on my bow horsemen. So initially, I've lost quite a huge tool that I can use with my bow horsemen. One of them is down to 22 men, the other one's down to 26. Meanwhile, his Thracian cavalry are, only 2 of them have got like 49 units left, but the other 2 are basically at full strength. I do have 2 full strength bow horsemen units on my side as well. So I need to be able to kite back if I want to win this game. Bringing 5 Dacian heavy bowmen is a risk, especially considering that I don't have any units or any foot units to back them up. So it's going to boil down to how effectively I can kite, because if they get caught, they are basically dead. Of course, if they get caught by units like Thracian cavalry, on the one hand, they might lose some units, but they are pretty tanky units for a foot skirmisher, especially a barbarian foot skirmisher. So in that sense, it could be counterintuitive for Heracles to charge in with his Thracian cavalry onto my Dacian heavy bowmen, especially considering the fact that I have a lot of melee cavalry on support. So if he does charge in with his Thracian cavalry, I can very easily, quickly take them out with spear horsemen. So he's pulling up in front with his Thracian cavalry here against my bow horsemen, and again getting a lot of shots here. But one thing is, he's losing a lot of javelin cavalry. A lot of javelins, especially in that particular engagement. But in general, he's definitely coming out the victor in the super early game. His Thracian skirmishers can very easily kill off my noble swords general. And my noble horsemen, while they can prove to be pretty effective against an Odrysian kingdom army because of their low melee defense, they can very easily and quickly take out the Thracian warriors. On the other hand, the Foxes and the extreme weapon damage combined with the hidden bonus versus large that the Foxes have can very easily kill off these noble horsemen, who themselves have very poor melee defense and very poor armor and health. So they are a very glass cannon type of unit, these noble horsemen, and not very strong. But one of the few factions that they'd actually do pretty decently against are the Odrysian kingdom, which is why I brought them. Now here you can see my bow horseman actually getting caught by his Thracian cavalry, which is very strange. The skirmish AI are not really working in my favor there, and these bow horsemen are basically done because I'm forcing them to pull out. I'm also advancing with my spear horseman here just to try and catch his Thracian cavalry, but he's obviously going to pull out of that engagement. Meanwhile, my bow horsemen have taken a ton of casualties. Here, his Thracian cavalry are starting to lose some men to my bow horsemen because I've pulled them into the safety of my main line. Another thing about my army is that it's really, really highly maneuverable. Compared to his army, once I can take out his cavalry, and he's brought very limited amounts of cavalry. Sure, they are pretty high in numbers, but Thracian cavalry will get destroyed by spear horsemen. And besides that, he's only brought, 2 or 3 Thracian horsemen? 3 Thracian horsemen and 1 Thracian royal cav. So once I take out the Thracian horsemen at least, and if I can especially kill off his Thracian royal cavalry here very quickly, it's going to lead to a huge morale debuff for a lot of his low tier units. You can see he's brought some Thracian warriors and Folksmen and Thracian skirmishers who all have pretty poor morale. 45 morale for the Thracian warriors, Folksmen have 40, and the skirmishers have only 25. So it could lead to a lot of mass routes if I can get an early gen snipe. But on the other hand, it definitely kills off a huge component of his army, which means that his army is a lot less maneuverable against my highly maneuverable army. Here you can see I've decided to sacrifice one of my spear horsemen here to catch his Thracian horsemen and his Thracian royal cavalry, and that was actually a bait so that I can use 2 of my Dacian heavy bowmen, and I've put quick reload and one of my bow horsemen to just fire a huge number of shots here. They have 90 armor, these Thracian royal cavalry general, but it's not going to be good for them if they keep taking fire from my Dacian heavy bows. Here again, I'm going to sacrifice one of my bow horsemen because the Thracian cavalry were engaging my Dacian heavy bows, and I'm also going to bring my general, my noble horseman general, to charge into these Thracian cavalry, just kill them off. I had to sacrifice that bow horseman, which could have actually played a pretty big role here. So a very smart move by Heracles using his Thracian cavalry there. but his general is starting to lose quite a few men. My spear horseman down to 47 units, the other one is down to 24 and starting to waver. I'm forced to pull out because he's using his mercenary foxmen here, and they would destroy my spear horseman. Here I'm going to chase after his station cavalry, also pulling back with my noble horseman general there. I think he charged in with his station cavalry on the far right, but they got destroyed by my spear horseman. He is going to charge in with his station royal cavalry here, and also with his station cavalry, but I'm going to pull in with one of my bow horsemen just to stop their charge, and I'm going to get a proper charge in with my spear horseman, with my noble horseman general onto his station royal cavalry, and they will get destroyed very, very quickly by noble horsemen, especially since they didn't get a counter charge. Here I'm forced to pull back with a lot of my units. My Dacian heavy bowmen trying to drop because of station cavalry. They have gotten a lot of kills, and they have basically routed one of my Dacian heavy bows. But here you can see I've charged in with one of my noble horsemen here against his foxman. Here I did micro very well, and my noble horseman has gotten charged by his station horseman, but the damage has been done to his mercenary foxes. The station horsemen are going to pull and chase after my noble horseman, but I've got a lot of cavalry support there. I'm forced to pull out, and I'm going to be very active in pulling out with my units here. You can see I'm starting to get a lot of good shots at great angles against his Thracian nobles, and the general recently died penalty for his army is going to be pretty decisive. 15 units left on his Thracian royal cavalry, but a lot of those units have died. Here they're engaging my Dacian heavy bowmen, but I'm going to charge in with spear horsemen against his Thracian warriors, and you've got to realize they only have 30 morale at this point, and I'm going to come in with a shock an elite tier shock cav just charging into these units. They're already down to red morale, they're starting to waver now, and meanwhile I'm forcing my other units to start pulling out. I've charged in with my noble horseman here, and you can see the huge amount of mass waver and just complete shatter of his Thracian warriors there because the general recently died. Pulling back with my noble horseman here, and now I have a huge advantage in terms of maneuverability. He's only got one Thracian horseman left, and his Thracian cavalry here just dying. Meanwhile, I've got a ton of my my units left, and these spear horsemen going to kill off these Thracian horsemen. My noble swords are coming in here, and they will definitely kill off these Thracian warriors. Meanwhile, my Dacian heavy bowmen should make short work of these Thracian nobles, which is exactly the type of situation that I wanted to get into. I'm getting very close to the red line, so I'm forced to kind of split off my units, but that's actually a pretty big boost for me because I can get flank shots onto these already very vulnerable units to skirmish fire. So you can see how quickly these Thracian nobles are getting destroyed. I've stopped some of his Thracian nobles with my spear horseman, just a way to stop his continuous charge onto my units. And I'm also going to get a flank charge. He's going to counter charge with his Thracian nobles actually. But I'm going to charge in with my noble horsemen, just smash into these units, and they will obviously take a lot of casualties from that. Here, Thracian nobles going to get charged at by some pretty depleted noble horsemen. They'll obviously lose a lot of men, and then I'm going to come in with my noble horseman general, who's done a really good job so far, and then finally come in with my noble swords, who've already gotten a single experience chevron. But my Dacian heavy bowmen really are doing a great job at this point, killing off the rest of his units. And here his Thracian nobles have no choice but to start routing because too many army losses for him. And even though they're actually really good, they've actually done a pretty decent job killing off my noble horsemen in the process. They're just too vulnerable to the mass amounts of skirmish troops that I have at this point. So 84 units left. They are starting to waver. He's popped headhunt, but it's going to be too little too late. It's just concentrated skirmish fire from all directions from really, really good barbarian foot skirmishers. And it's a close victory to me. So bringing a unexpected build against an Odrysian kingdom is probably a risk that you can very easily take with Getae especially. They definitely have the tools to destroy an Odrysian kingdom build. You can see a pretty risky build with 5 Dacian heavy bowmen and only 1 infantry unit could work. I did make quite a few micro mistakes, but it just goes to show that this build is actually pretty strong against a traditional Odrysian kingdom rush army. Although this isn't a very rush army in and of itself, he did bring a lot of cavalry. But the fact that I had so many bow horsemen, which at the end of the day didn't really do too much, but gave my army a lot of maneuverability and an early harass potential, coupled with the fact that I just brought a lot of melee cavalry units that could just quickly hold down the Thracian nobles and Thracian warriors, so that my my Dacian heavy bowmen can start letting loose their arrows, really played into my favor at that in this matchup. Anyways, guys, that's the end of this battle. Hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned for more. Peace.